Today we're going to start with Chapter 3, which was Structure in Schools. And in 1947, Max Weber came up with the model of bureaucracy. And in this model, he had division of labor, and division of labor leads to specialization, and specialization promotes expertise. Impersonal orientation was his next one, and that's decisions based on facts, not feelings or biases. The next is hierarchy of authority, and that's systems of superiors and subordinates. Hierarchy promotes discipline, compliance, and coordination. Rules and regulations. Formalization ensures stability and uniformity of behavior. Career orientation, and career orientation is the promotion according to seniority, achievement, or both. And then efficiency. Bureaucracy maximizes rational decision-making and administrative efficiency. And on the Weber's model, there were some critiques. And the first is on the function of the division of labor. And the function would be expertise, and the dysfunction would be boredom. Then you have impersonal orientation. The function is rationality, and the dysfunction is lack of morale. On the hierarchy of authority, you have compliance and coordination, and that's where you have communication blocks. The next would be rules and regulations, and the function would be continuity and stability. And the dysfunction would be rigidity and goal displacement. And the next one is career orientation. The function is incentive, but the dysfunction is the conflict between achievement and seniority. As we move along, we're going to talk a little bit about informal organization. And it is the spontaneous development of a social structure and culture within a formal organization. It is a shadow organization. Activities, interactions, and sentiments form the following: informal structure, division into cliques, informal norms, personal relations, informal communication, the grapevine, or informal leadership. There are you have the formal versus the informal structure. And in the formal system, you have the hierarchy, division of labor, formalization, impersonality, and the chain of command. The informal system, you have the informal structure, division into cliques, informal norms, personal relations, and the grapevine. And some of the criticisms of bureaucracy, the first one is dual structure, and that is the guiding principle of bureaucracy. And then you have the feminist critique. And one of the things it discussed was hierarchy, impersonality, independence, rationality, competition, centralized versus egalitarianism, which is the doctrine that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities, personalism, dependence, emotionality, cooperation, and decentralized. And a summary of some of the criticisms on bureaucracy is that the dysfunctional consequences are not always considered. The informal organization is neglected. There is conflict sometimes between administration based on expertise and administration based on discipline, compliance, and the feminist critique. Now we're going to talk about centralization, enabling, and coercive. And we need to know first what centralization is. And centralization is the locus of control For decision making, the hierarchy. There's two kinds of centralization. Hindering, and that's where the structure makes it difficult for teachers to do their work, and it hinders professional activity. The next is enabling, and this is where the structure facilitates the work of teachers. It enables teachers to make professional decisions. We want to talk a little bit about formalization, enabling, and coercive. What is formalization? Formalization is the formal system of rules, regulations, procedures, and policies. And there's two kinds of formalization. That's coercive, and that's a rigid set of procedures that punishes and attempts to force compliance. And enabling is another, and that's a flexible set of best practices that enables one to deal more effectively with inevitable problems. Then we're going to talk about Hall from 1962. And he had types of rational organizations. And the first is the bureaucratic pattern. And in that you have the hierarchy of authority, rules for incumbents, procedural specifications, and impersonality. Then you have the professional pattern, which is technical competence and specialization. Now we're going to talk about Mintzberg on structure, and he had 5 basic coordinating mechanisms, and they are the fundamental means organizations use to monitor and control work, mutual adjustment, direct supervision, standardization of work processes, standardization of outputs, and standardization of worker skills. These mechanisms glue the organization together. And now we have 5 key parts, and the first one being the operating core. And it comprises, those who perform the basic work activities directly related to the production of products and services. And it actually would be considered the heart of the organization. The next one is the strategic apex, and it consists of the top administrators. That would be like superintendent and assistants who are charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the organization effectively serves its mission. And the next would be the middle line. And we get that when those administrators who connect the apex with the operating core through the formal activity structure, and they constitute what we would call the middle line. And in school systems, principals would be considered to be the middle managers. And in the technostructure, it is the administrative component charged with the responsibility of planning. And it is composed of analysts who standardize the work of others and apply their analytic techniques to help the organization adapt to its environment. And finally, we've got the 5th component, and that's the support staff. And it is composed of specialized units that exist to provide support for the organization outside the operating workflow. And in schools, for example, we find a building and grounds department. You have a maintenance department, a cafeteria, and a payroll department. Now we're going to go on to the next thing that we want to talk about, and that is the control or coordinating mechanisms, and that's Mintzberg also. So we're going to talk about what are coordinating mechanisms, and they are the fundamental means organizations use to monitor and control work. I've already talked about that, but I'm going to say it again. Sorry about that. These mechanisms are the glue that holds the organization together. You have mutual adjustment, and that is informal communication, direct supervision, that's personal command, standardization of work, program directions, standardization of output, that specifies the product, and standardization of skills, that specifies training. And we've got 5 combinations and 5 basic structures, and I already talked about those, which was the strategic apex, the technostructure, operating core, middle line, and support staff. So from there, we're going to talk about loose couplings. So loose couplings are structural connections among the elements that are tied together and loosely, in some cases, disconnected. And it gave an example that the administration of a school has little influence in what is happening in the classroom. And it wanted to consider universities. It also said that some schools are tightly coupled and others are loosely coupled. Bureaucracies tend to be tightly coupled, and professional organizations tend to be more loosely coupled. Tight coupling limits discretion of teachers. Loose coupling enhances discretion of teachers. Also, professional and bureaucratic orientations. Professional orientation and bureaucratic orientation. And here's some sources of compatibility between orientations. And with the professional orientation, you have expertise, objective perspective, impersonal approach, and service to clients. Then you come over to the bureaucratic orientation. You have expertise, objective perspective, impersonal approach, but then service to the organization and services of conflict between orientations. You have, under professional orientation, colleague reference group, autonomy and decision making, and self-imposed control. In bureaucratic orientation, hierarchical orientation, discipline compliance, and it's subordinated to the organization. Okay, now we're going to go on to Chapter 4, Individuals in Schools and Motivation. And there's 3 things that individuals are motivated by, and that's needs, beliefs, and goals. And in this chapter, we talk about Maslow and his hierarchy of needs theory. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And it is a basic innate or inborn set of human needs arranged in hierarchical order. And first we have assumptions. And the first one is individual needs are universal and arranged in a hierarchy. 2, unfilled needs lead individuals to focus on those needs. 3, lower level needs must be satisfied before higher level needs become strong motivators. The first level is physiological needs, and that is like air, food, sleep, etc. The second level is safety and security needs, and that protects against danger and threats. You want things to run smoothly with that one. The third one is belongingness needs, and that is belonging to groups and having friends, etc. 4 is esteem needs, self-respect and the respect of others. And 5 is self-actualization needs, being all you can be, finding your potential. And as we move on, we are going to talk about the theories of motivation and needs. And Herzberg's motivation hygiene theory, 2 types of needs. And first they talked about assumptions. And one was satisfaction and dissatisfaction are 2 separate factors, not opposites. 2, factors that produce satisfaction are different from those that promote dissatisfaction. 3, motivators are higher level needs and tend to promote satisfaction. And 4, higher factors are lower level needs and tend to promote dissatisfaction. Next to theories of motivation and needs, and we have McClellan's achievement, the need theory. We have two assumptions about this. The prospect of achievement motivates more than extrinsic rewards. Two, motives are learned, and when people learn to value achievement, it becomes a strong motivator. To instill motivation, you need to place people in a situation where they can succeed, emphasize setting reasonable and achievable goals, get people to take responsibility for their actions, provide clear and constructive feedback on performance. And number three, when achievement motivation is high, then individuals set high but achievable goals, value and use feedback, have a single-minded absorption with task accomplishment. And the theories of motivation needs, the fourth one is need for autonomy. Individuals have a need to have a choice in what they do and how they do it. They need to be in charge of their own lives. And the need for autonomy is higher level need. It's a higher level need, likely above self-esteem and below self-actualization in Maslow's hierarchy. Theories of motivation and beliefs. Now we're going to talk about Weiner's attribution theory, beliefs about cause. And we have assumptions here. The first one is individuals naturally seek understandings of why things happen the way they do. Number two, individuals make causal connections. For example, they create knowledge. Once knowledge is created, they use it to manage their behavior. The basic causes of achievement are ability, effort, difficulty of the task, and luck. Some key questions are causal, what are causes of outcomes? Locus, or causal, what are causes of outcomes? Locus is the cause internal, ability and effort are external, difficulty and luck. Stability is the cause fixed or does it change? Responsibility, controllable, can I control the cause? Maximize motivation by knowing what causes outcomes. Knowing the cause is internal and controllable, and knowing cause is amenable to change. Here's some more theories of motivation beliefs, and this is just a continuation. And this goes along with ability. You have a stable view. Ability is uncontrollable and unable to change. Set performance goals that protect their self-esteem. Incremental view. Ability is unstable but controllable. Expanding reservoir of knowledge and skills. Hard work and persistence can pay off. Set performance goals to gauge progress. And you have now Greenberg's equity theory, beliefs about fairness. And here's some assumptions about this. One, individuals care about being treated fairly. Number two, people make social comparisons regarding fair and equitable treatment. Number three, perceived inequity tends to reduce motivation. Number four, individuals attempt to reduce feelings of inequity by they try to get increased benefits. In other words, get a raise. They try to leave, or they quit and find another job, or they reduce their inputs. They expend less effort on the job. We're going to go on to Vroom's expectancy theory. That's beliefs about outcomes. Here are some of the assumptions. One is that individuals make conscious decisions about their behavior. Two, people evaluate subjectively the expected value of outcomes. Three, forces in the individual and environment combine to determine individual values and attitudes. Motivation is a function of the interaction of expectancy, instrumentality, and balance. So, like an expectancy would be, can I perform the task? Instrumentality, if I succeed, what are the consequences? And balance, how strongly do I value the consequences? And then we have Bandura's self-efficacy theory, beliefs and capacity. And here are some of the assumptions. Individuals make conscious decisions about their behavior. The extent to which people believe that they have the capacity to execute a course of action that is required to succeed in their self-efficacy motivates behavior. Self-efficacy affects individual choice. Choose activities in which you will succeed and avoid those in which you believe you will fail. Strong self-efficacy increases effort at the task. Strong self-efficacy increases persistence. Strong self-efficacy increases resilience, and sources of strong self-efficacy. They are mastery experiences, modeling, that's vicarious experiences, verbal persuasion, and physiological state. Okay, now we're going to talk about building self-efficacy in schools. Administrators should try to orchestrate the following: secure instructional time and resources for teachers to plan, collaborate, and research to build mastery experiences. Allow teachers to have access to models in the form of conferences, workshops, visitations, etc., for cultivation of vicarious experiences. Foster emphasis on professionalism and reflective teaching, and reward those who collaborate and share feedback to increase social persuasion. Attend to teachers' affective states and provide encouragement during times of frustration. Frame performance as a function of acquired skill rather than inherent capability. And last, we have Locke's goal theory. Some of the assumptions are if goals are accepted by individuals, they are strong motivators. Why? And this is the reason why it's called goals focus attention, goals mobilize efforts, goals enhance persistence, and goals promote the development of strategies for success. Specific goals are generally more effective than general goals. Difficult but attainable goals are more effective than easy ones. To be effective, goals must be embraced by an individual. As we end, we're going to talk about the theories of motivation, and that's intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And the definition of intrinsic motivation, it comes from such factors as interest and curiosity in the task itself. Extrinsic motivation comes from incentives and disincentives to act, for example, rewards and punishment. And there's a key difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is the reason for acting. Internal, that's intrinsic, or external is extrinsic. And the dichotomy between the two, however, is a bit too simple, because what starts as an extrinsic motivation, that's like studying to get good grades, may become intrinsic as the individual becomes curious about the learning at hand. And that's all. Thank you all for listening.